Pack, we should probably figure out if we can figure out what Jae'lyn Withers is going to do this year.
Ugh, we probably can't.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. It is September 11th, man. Our hearts are mindful of what an important day this is in the history of our country. Anyone who's checking in today that lost a family member on that day, man, our thoughts are certainly with you today. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea, joined today by our good buddy, Coach Pat Kilby, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch to get your day going. Special shout out to the everydayers out there, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, and of course, our brand new Locked On Tar Heels insiders. This episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. The Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Begin your coaching legacy today. Pack. We're down to the nitty gritty on this thing, brother. This is week 11 of our roster preview series. We've done the freshmen. We've done the sophomores. We've hit the juniors. Last week we moved. There are no 4-year seniors. That's kind of wild. Last week we moved to the 5th-year seniors, starting with Georgia Tech incoming transfer Ty Claude. And today we move on to Jae'lyn Withers in round 2 with the Tar Heels. And that's the big question, is what do we expect, knowing that so many transfers really settle into things and really find out their role and settle into it well in year 2. So we're going to have a conversation today to try to figure out if Jay Witt can do that. We'll make bold predictions, talk strengths and weaknesses, role prediction, and all that kind of stuff. As we always do, though, Coach Pat Kilby, why don't you hit us with that Jay Witt bio blast?
Yes, sir. All right, so Jay Witt's bio, he's originally from Charlotte. He played his high school ball at North Mecklenburg in Huntersville, North Carolina. But he went to Cleveland Heights High School in Cleveland, Ohio for his senior year. He is currently a grad student at Carolina. This is his 6th year of college basketball. Redshirt at Louisville, played through 3 at Louisville, played last year at UNC, and now his 6th season and final season here at UNC this year. Position forward, height 6'9", 220 pounds, jersey number 24.
Yes, sir.
Twitter, yes, Jay Witt. Come on, baby. Twitter is Jaylen Withers. Instagram, Jaylen Withers. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. For those of you who are new, we always grade the social media handles for each player. Pat, why would you give this a 10 out of 10? Because I'm with you. I agree.
Well, it's just simple. Their Insta and Twitter are the same, and it's just his name. It's that simple.
I love it. No apostrophe. His name actually has the Jae apostrophe Lynn. Nah, it's just Jaelyn Withers. Love it. I'm with you. 10 out of 10. This is what we're talking about. This is how people can come and find you. All right, Pat, keep on going. Hit the stats.
Yes, sir. All right, so games played, 37. 3 games started. 12.4 minutes last year, 4.2 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, 1 offensive rebound per game, and 2.6 defensive. 0.6 assists, 0.7 turnovers, 0.5 blocks, and 0.4 steals per game. His plus-minus total was plus 169 on the season. He was 6th in plus-minus behind the starters. His field goal percentage is 53.5%. On 53 of 99 from the field, 2.7 attempts per game. 2-point field goal percentage, 62%, 49 of 79 on 2.1 attempts, and 3-point field goal percentage was 20. 4 for 20 from the field on half an attempt per game. Free throws, 78%. A total of 46 of 59 from the line with 1.6 attempts per game.
Woo! Pack, I until we started putting these numbers together to remember back to last year, I don't think I could have pulled that he shot 62% from 2. Man, we're going to have to get into that here in a second. But, Pack, as I started thinking about this, we kind of joked off the cold open, hey, we should figure out if we can figure out what Jae'lyn Withers is going to do this year. And for me, the reason we ask that or make that kind of joking statement is because I want to ask this question. Is there another player on this roster with a wider range of outcomes of role or of what his floor could be and what his ceiling could be on this team?
No, he definitely has the widest gap between floor and ceiling.
Why is that?
Well, his floor can be exactly what we've seen. Games where, like we look at his 3-point field goal percentage, he's 4 of 20. He takes a couple bad shots here and there, costs us a couple possessions. He has a negative assist to turnover ratio, doesn't rebound the ball well, picks up some not so good fouls, just gambles here and there, out of position some. And so his floor can be really low, if we're being honest about it. But he has what virtually, no one else has, in the sense that he's 6'9", freakishly athletic, has great length, can jump out of the gym, can run the floor incredibly well, has the potential when he's locked in to be really, really sharp defensively, can make our full court press really, really good. He does things that are really good. And then, like you mentioned, 62% from 2-point field goal percentage, 78% from the free throw line. He brings some value there.
Yeah.
And so the ceiling can be high. It's just what Jay-Wit are we going to get? And obviously, a big part of our conversation is going to be how can we get that ceiling Jay-Wit more frequently?
Okay, well, let's go there. How do we get that ceiling more frequently? Right? Because as you said, the times we saw it, like I think back to when playing Louisville against a team, or man, there were some moments in one of the Duke, like there was a play, I forget whether it was the game at Cameron or at home, where he had an offensive rebound and putback right before halftime. Am I remembering that correctly? That just really helped kind of push the lead out a little more. If I remember at a moment when Duke was pushing. So how in year 2 does Jaylen Withers, because I think he's accepted what his role is, but how does he lean into it in a game in, game out basis?
Well, I think you kind of just hit the nail on the head there. So, year 1, this is his first year to truly be a part of a competitive basketball team. And that's the truth. Louisville asked him to do things that are way outside of what Carolina would ever ask him to do. And so,
and let me insert along with that, it was seemingly different every year at Louisville, what that ask was.
True. Very true. But his last year at Louisville, he took a lot of 3-point attempts, and he was playing like from the wing and playing like, even as big and athletic as he is, he played some like 2 guard for them and did some different things. And it was just a really weird situation. So for him, he's got a year under his belt at Carolina now of understanding what his role looks like and how it's changed and what's expected of him. So I think it's safe to assume that he is going to settle into that role more. He understands that role more now, and hopefully he's bought into it, because the role is spelled out in the stats. It's not to be a 3-point shooter. It's not to do anything crazy. It's to get better at valuing the basketball, get to the rim, because his field goal percentage, the 62%, it comes from him being, using his athleticism, getting out of transition, running the floor, finishing at the rim, and getting to the free throw line where he shoots it pretty well, 78%. So
yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, if he can just stick to those things, which I think he will, because this is year 2, and then show improvement defensively, of not just being able to guard the ball, but being where he's supposed to be all the time off the ball.
Within team concepts and
concepts. And if he does that, then we're going to see Jaylen be a lot closer to that ceiling that we were talking about.
Yeah. And let me just add a couple contextual things to that 62% from 2 and the 78% from the free throw line. The Jalen's, both of them, led the team in 2-point field goal percentage last year. Jalen Washington, 74.2%. Jay Witt, as we've said, 62%. The next closest regular rotation player was Armando, all the way down to 54%, Pack. And so both Jalen's just need to do absolute work on the inside. Now with Jalen Washington, we want to see him get out and pop from three a little bit more. And then from the free throw line, I love that 78%, but it was just 1.6 attempts per game last year. And I don't necessarily want to see him attack off the dribble because that's obviously not his strong suit. I think we all get a little afraid when Jay Witt starts trying to handle the ball too much. But whether it's those offensive rebounds and putbacks or whatever it is, I do want to see him finding his way there to the foul line more often. So, man, that's a thing. Pack, where I want to go next is there was a moment from Carolina's last game that I think is stuck in the minds of Carolina fans the world over. My hand is up, me included, and that was that ill-fated three-pointer against Alabama. I want to talk about how we and Jay Witt go about moving past that as we move into the new year. So we'll do that in just a second. But first, Locked On Tar Heels community, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up about a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love. It's called the Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this great simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually stepping into Mac Brown's shoes and being him? So from recruiting players to hiring staff, overseeing training camps, scholarships, all of that, you control every crucial detail of your team. You think you can handle that pressure? Well, also what I really like about this game, you're responsible for calling the offensive plays. So your decisions are going to determine the success of your program, but also are going to help shape the future and legacy of that program. The Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. And of course, I got a special offer for the Locked On Tar Heels crew. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. To download the app, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Going to live events, y'all, is the absolute best. I love going to musicals or theater, comedy shows, whatever it is. And of course, you know it. It's here now. College football is back. And I'm looking forward to making all new memories this college sports season. Well, great news. When you're getting tickets this year, Game Time actually has a new feature that's called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through all the tickets that you might otherwise find. So whether it's Game Time ticket coverage, the lowest price guarantee, or the views from your seats in a panoramic view in the app, Game Time has got you covered. How about tickets to the game this weekend when Carolina hosts NC Central? You can get tickets on the 50-yard line, but right behind the Carolina bench for $41, man. Act now and go get in on that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. Pack, the last time we saw the Tar Heels on the court was that crushing loss to Alabama in the Sweet 16. I'm so sick and tired of losing to the stinking Crimson Tide, both on and off the court. Can we please beat them when they come to the Smith Center this year? Anyway, there was a lot of contributing factors to that loss. Things like RJ Davis inexplicably going 0 from 9 from 3. The only game all season he didn't hit a three-pointer. That missed dunk from Armando, but because it was one of the last things that happened in the game, we all remember the ill-advised three-pointer from Jae'lyn Withers at the top of the key. A lot of time left on the shot clock. Carolina had a lead and just wasn't the right shot at the right time. Situational awareness. However, Pat Kilby, athletic endeavors are about, as Ted Lasso reminded us about, being a goldfish and forgetting and moving on. I'm sure Jaylen Withers has worked through it and processed it and moved on, but I know a lot of us are still dwelling on it. So, Pack, I want to ask the question both For Jaylen, the athlete, how does he move past that moment into this year? And then how should we as a fan base work through it, forgive him, and move on and celebrate the player that he is?
Yeah, so to touch on the fan base part first, I think a good way to look at it would be to look at Caleb Love's famous shot against Duke. If that shot doesn't go down, we're talking about that shot the same way that we're talking about Jae'lyn Withers' shot, maybe even more so. And the thing is those types of shots they can be, great, like we're talking about on Caleb Love's shot, or they can be the thing that stings in your mind when you think about that game. And so, and that's Jae'lyn Withers' case. It was an ill-advised shot. It wasn't the right time. There was still, if I remember right, there was still 15 seconds left on the shot clock when it was taken. And
that is a difference in Caleb's, is it was the end of the shot clock.
Yes. Yeah. Both of them were gutsy shots, but yes, you're right. That was the end of the shot clock versus 15 seconds left to get the look that we wanted. But here's the thing, though. I just think we have to remember, Jalen was doing in the moment what he thought was trying to call game essentially with his, and it didn't pan out, obviously.
Because it probably would have been. Let's be honest, Pack. If that ball goes down, that gives Carolina. We were up 1 at that point.
4-point lead with minimal time left.
With under a minute. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, interesting point. Keep going.
That likely calls game. Now, is that who any of us wanted taking that shot in that moment? No. And I think that's something he has to look at. And so now we'll transition to how does he process this? First of all, you gotta grow from it, and understand your role better. That's not his place. It's that shot should have been taken by RJ, Harrison. We could have gotten the ball to Armando. It could have been a number of things, but that should have never been it. And he probably knows that. That's the self-examination portion of this. But it also is what you said. You got to be a goldfish. You got to move to the next play. You got to move to the next thing. You have to learn from adversity. You have to allow it to make you better. I'm sure, he's a basketball player at a high level. Those are things he's assessing. The staff is assessing. They're conversations that are being had. They've already had them. He's moved on from it. He's prepping for a new season. And as a fan base, we really should too. Does it sting? Yeah, for sure. Because with that win, there's no telling what could have happened with the rest of the postseason. But ultimately, it happened. We've got to move on from it. And Jaylen needs us to, because I think so many times, a lot like the situation with Leaky, once we have something made up in our mind, it becomes kind of almost permanent for that player because that player starts to believe it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that for Jaylen because he does have a lot to offer and bring to the table for the team. So I think it's something where, yeah, it stings, but we've really got to move forward from it, just like he's probably already done.
And that's a great point. Like, one of the things we often talk about, like just in relationships in life is, man, I'm not going to judge you by one of, I'm not calling this the worst thing Jae'lyn Withers has ever done, but here's my point. I'm not going to judge you by the worst thing you've ever done and hold that over your head for the rest of your life. I hope that I, as your friend and brother, would show you like grace and understanding and forgiveness, and we work through it and we move on. It's the same thing that we as fans, I think that's a good point, is like, dude, it happened. Oh, well, what a redemption opportunity it is. And I would also say, man, if you are a true Tar Heel believer, fan, whatever it is, why wouldn't you want to be behind all these guys, lifting them up and encouraging them? And it is appropriate to critique and it's appropriate to praise, but always I think we should encourage, remembering that these are young men just trying to figure out life and do the things they need to do. So Pack, I was joking with you. It's also a year that we're due for a good Jaylen Withers 3-point shooting year. His freshman year at Louisville, 38.1%. His sophomore year, 23.4%. Junior year, bounced back, 41.7%. Last year at UNC, 20%. So we're due for at least 38% from three from Jay Witt this year. So, Pack, that's great news. I love that pattern, and I can't wait to see it. In all seriousness, let's move. I know we've been kind of hitting on some strengths and weaknesses, but can we put some specificity to it? Would you just share what you see specifically as Jae'lyn Withers' strengths as they relate to this basketball team?
Yeah, his strengths to me are strongly on the defensive side of the basketball, and specifically an area. Oddly enough, I'd really like to see him grow. Now, these are his strengths. I think he's good on the ball. I think he's when we pick up in that full court pressure from time to time, out of timeouts or after made baskets,
he could be a menace.
He's lethal in that. He's just got great length and size and speed. There's just not many 6'9" people out there that move the way he moves. And so he's got things that you can't coach that make him dangerous. The pace that we play with, he fits that perfectly. He can rim run. He can have explosive finishes. He finishes through contact. He dunks the ball well. I mean, he's just freakishly athletic. And so I think that's a strength for him.
If only he had a point guard who could throw a good lob for him, Oh, wait. Elliot could go wacky on that this year with Jay Witt on the receiving end of it. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely a strength. And our pace, our style of play, I think it fits Jalen really, really well. And the thing is another one of his strengths is that when he just allows the game to come to him, he's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because and with our style, the game can come to him naturally because it puts him in a place where he can play with space and utilize his athleticism and get out in transition. And so to me, those are his strengths. And he needs to, really, really strive to play to those this year because I think he stands to benefit from it quite a bit, as well as the team when he's doing that.
It's interesting as I start thinking about it while you're talking there, the loss of Armando, who has that center of gravity where he demands all that attention, and the way we anticipate Carolina to play differently this year because of not having that type of player on the roster, I think benefits Jae'lyn Withers I think his game suits the way we expect Carolina to play this year more so than his game suits the way they played last year. And I'm just taking my cue from that off of how you're talking about it. And so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. And honestly, it goes back to what you were talking about earlier. We all kind of hold our breath when he's putting the ball on the floor, but when he picks and chooses his spots wisely and he's efficient with his dribbles, like not breaking somebody down, but just catching, ripping 2 hard dribbles, getting to the rim, that's when he's at his best. And he's going to have opportunity to do that because there's going to be a well-spaced floor pretty consistently this year. And I think he just really stands to benefit from that if he plays within himself.
And at the 4 or the 5, he's how often is he going to be out-athleted by other 4s and 5s? Not very often, if ever. Pac, what about the other side of it quickly before we move on? I know we've hit on some of the areas of weakness, but anything you want to highlight or add that we haven't discussed yet?
Yeah, I think we would could really benefit if he, would improve on his passing. And I think that sometimes he gets so tunnel visioned that he doesn't see what's going on around him. And so he could grow there and just not turning the ball over as much. Maybe taking that assist to turnover ratio and flipping that to the positive, which I think he had like 0.6 to 0.7 turnovers. So it wouldn't take much to make that a positive transition there. And then defensively, we talked about all the intangibles that he has, but the discipline aspect of it, staying down, not jumping at every shot fake, having solid closeouts, being able to handle, the different ways we guard ball screens, guard multiple positions, not pick up silly fouls, those little intricate details. If he can grow there, he's going to be a very lethal defender. And we could even be talking about him like we talk about Seth Trimble and potentially Drake Powell. Because he has the tools. He just needs to put the discipline with that, and he can really grow there.
Yeah, to put the numbers on it, 21 assists last year, 25 turnovers. So as you said, it was very close, Pac. Now, we got to get to talking about what we expect Jae'lyn Withers' role to be this year, his place on the depth chart. And of course, we got to make some bold predictions for our guy, Jay Witt. All of that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, you've heard us talk a lot this summer about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We've talked about how FanDuel this summer was offering you a boost or a bonus every day. Well, now I've got something a little different to tell you about. Right now through September 22nd, FanDuel is offering all customers who bet $5 to get the opportunity to have a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. If you want to look ahead to this weekend's Carolina game, the Tar Heels are favored by 37.5 over NC Central. That's a massive number. Last week, they barely missed covering against Charlotte. It was that late junk time touchdown from the 49ers that put them back on the wrong side of that. So if you want to get in on this action, maybe Carolina will cover this Saturday. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Pat Kilby, it's time to make some proclamations, some prognostications, some estimations, whatever words you want to put on it. Let's make this kitten purr and see what's going to happen. What do you see as the expected role and the expected place on the depth chart for Jay Witt this year?
Yeah, so as far as expected role, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head there about just bringing athleticism to the table, being somebody that contributes to rebounding the basketball on the offensive and the defensive side of the floor, being a versatile weapon defensively, and playing within himself offensively. So, to me, that's the expected role. We talked about he's got a crazy floor to ceiling gap, and we would like to see that narrow. I think, and we'll find out early on, can he narrow that, and can we expect Jay Witt to play into his expected role? As far as place on the depth chart, when you really look at it, I think, like we've talked about much before, we're so guard heavy. I think the first couple off the bench are guards, Drake Powell, Seth Trimble, potentially Ian, not knowing what's going on there for sure. But I think after those guys, you got to say he's probably 8 on the depth chart, maybe 9th.
Maybe 9th, yeah.
To be safe, I think I'd put him at 8. But then when you just look at it like from a front court situation, I would say just not knowing he's the first or second guy off the bench, for the front court.
Yeah. And I think, as you alluded to there, I think a lot of it's going to depend on what Coach Davis rolls with for a starting 5 might factor into that as well. But I'm with you. I think 8 to 9 is the right spot for Jay Witt. And I think a lot of it is going to be determined by what you just said about expected role, because here's the thing with Jay Witt. If he hits the ceiling, great. But I'm with you. If he could just raise that floor and give that consistency, man, I would we just started fantasy football this week because the NFL got going. I would rather have a guy that gets me 12 points in fantasy every week than a guy that might get me 21 week and 1 the next week. Give me that 12 consistency every week. So if Jay Witt could narrow that range as you're talking about, specifically bringing up the floor, man, I think we'd be in a great spot and is going to be helpful to this team that needs consistency in the front court to balance out the exceptional backcourt. Pat, let's make our bold predictions for Jay Witt, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, quick note to add there. I just wanted to touch on this.
Do it.
I think one thing we haven't spent a ton of time talking about is what's going to be interesting to see is how Vin Allen Lubin and Jay Witt play together. And how they could potentially play over each other, because I think they're very similar. So that'll be something to watch as far as expected role and place on depth chart. As far as bold prediction, I'm going to go with, I think that Jaylen Withers is around 50 3-point attempts for the season. And of those 50, I think he's going to be at 40%.
Ooh. Okay. I like it. Hey, like I said earlier, he's due. So that may, honestly, it's not the wildest thing. The mathematical patterns suggest it will be a reality. I'm here for it. Pack, my bold prediction for Jaylen Withers, Again, folks, as always, bold predictions are things that will probably not happen. They wouldn't be bold if they were not. My bold prediction is that Jaylen Withers works himself into a starting role, whether it's the 4 or the 5, plays 20 minutes a game and averages 10 points and 5 rebounds. Again, I don't see that as the probability, but there is a world in which that is like you could explain a world in which that ceiling is a thing. So, folks, as always, would love to hear your bold predictions for Jay Witt. What do you think his role will be? Minutes played, all of that kind of stuff. Why don't you come on, share them with us in the Discord or in the YouTube chat or wherever it is. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family, man, we would love to have you come join us in there. The link for it's in the show notes. It's absolutely free to join. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community, as we always say. If you haven't subscribed to the show on both audio and video, that'll help you make sure you don't miss a single second of this, including next week when we wrap up the scholarship players part of our roster preview series with none other than the man, RJ Davis. I can't wait for that conversation pack. If you haven't joined our Locked On Tar Heels Insider program, that's an opportunity to text directly with me, have free access to all of my stats and data and charts and all of that stuff. And all it costs you is $5 a month. You get the first 14 days free to check it out and see if it's something you're interested in. If not, no harm, no foul, just cancel it and it won't be any problem. But it's a great way to help support the show as we're continuing to grow. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.